And this started 7 years ago in 1 month. We're into our 8th year.
I see. So now you're looking for the statutory interest and stuff. I see. So now.
And I'll tell you something, that this guy didn't get away with the bankruptcy. The bankruptcy backfired, and this guy has paid to the trustee, let's see, $13,500. His last payment was due October 3rd. I haven't been able to get the trustee to tell me whether he made the payment or not. But that's what's sitting in the bank right now to go to creditors.
Does that go to you?
It goes to all the creditors. It's
No, but
distributed.
I mean, you're one of the listed creditors, right?
Sure.
Okay. So you'll be taken care of. You'll be recompensed for what you are owed, right?
Well, it's rather obvious, isn't it? I'm a creditor.
I'm just like making sure. Like it sounds to me like you will be. So then you did okay by this.
What?
I said then you did okay by this.
No, I did not do okay. But I did okay by this, that Scott Lord has paid 10 times, tenfold, for his lying, cheating, and stealing. He has been badly bruised.
I gotta tell you, when I saw that program on TV, I was like, oh, Danny's down. I was talking to my kid here.
Yeah.
You know, it was like very entertaining. You know, like I'll be honest with you, my gut impression was I thought it was fairly malicious, but it was entertaining anyway.
It was not malicious. It is a statement as it happened.
Well, things can be malicious. You know, like when you were doing things like.
You cannot prove malice.
No, I'm not trying to prove malice.
Okay, well you can't prove it.
I'm not.
You cannot prove it. Okay, I told it as it was. This stuff has to be exposed. Oh yeah.
All right, listen, let me go. I gotta get my kids to school.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye now.
Bye, Edward. Well, it's pretty obvious, I think, that Scott Lord went to this Edward King, whoever he is. He says he represented Scott Lord at one time, but then I would say that just about every lawyer in Long Island has. And it's pretty obvious to me that Scott Lord went to Edward King and said, you know, can't you say something? Can't you scare her? Can't you stop her from having these programs telecast? Well, he can't. Now, I'm going to tell you what happened the week of October the 4th, 1993, on Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, Jeffrey Barnes, John Hall, Judge Duberstein, Joseph Derby, the United States Marshal at the Westbury Bankruptcy Court, Andrew Maloney, the former United States Attorney, Neil Mann, a former United States Assistant Trustee, Howard Jones, a former United States Trustee down at Bowling Green, and Teresa Kavanaugh, the current Assistant Trustee over in Gateway Boulevard in Garden City. And to do that, the best and the fastest way to do that is to read you the log. Well, October the 4th, 1994, Monday, it is taking a long time to use up the blank backs of the Scott Lord legal papers. You have to use up the backs, folks, because you got to save the trees. You can't use new paper. There are so many of them, but the backs have to be used up because we have to save the trees. We have to save the planet. October the 5th, 1993, Tuesday, Glendora tried every day, calling O'Connell's office. He's the trustee, the panel trustee, not the United States trustee, to find out the news on Scott Lord. Nobody in the office knows anything about it. There is $18,000 in the estate bank account in Manhattan. That's the bankruptcy estate, the Atlantis Lawn Sprinkler bankruptcy estate. Scott Lord says Glendora will never get a penny. Well, that is a little more than a penny and a nickel. He said a nickel one time, and another time he says you'll never get a dime. Judge Fredman's Chambers got Glendora's answers to such and Friday. Glendora slipped it under the door. Friday afternoon, nobody was there, of course. The court clerk says the matter is on the calendar for Tuesday, October 5th today. So does the calendar clerk's computer. Now, this is the big day in Judge Hall's court when O'Connell went before Judge Hall and applied for approval of resettlement from $12,000 to $14,000 of the stipulation that the trustee made with Scott Lord the bankrupt. Glendora was supposed to appear and support O'Connell, but she could not bring it off. She could not get to Nassau County from Westchester, and that's too bad. She should have been there. Glendora asked the people in the Westbury court clerk's office to tell her what happened, but the court clerks are not so good at that. It is tough to get the simplest information from them. October the 6th, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora talked to the chief clerk, Hurley. Glendora talked to Edward King, who left his number and address on Glendora's recorder Friday night, watching the program and chat with Glendora about Scott Lord, Barnes, Stahl, and other litigants. He was obviously put up to it by Scott Lord, and he tried to get Glendora to desist for such a small amount of money. Well, I don't say $10,000 is such a small amount of money, do you? If this is such a small amount of money, how come Scott Lord never just paid it? Instead of going bankrupt for the second and third times and putting the country to all of this trouble. Also, King mentioned malice. Glendora told him he could not prove malice. King admitted he could not, but it was obviously a put-up job. King admitted he had handled a case for Scott Lord, and as I've said to you before, what lawyer in Nassau County has not? It is tough to get the information from the Office of Consumer Affairs on what is happening on that third judgment against Tri-State. Glendora told him Stutchen would not answer our questions. This is a third judgment from the State Department of Labor, I believe, for non-payment of employee, what do you call it? You know, unemployment. Glendora talked a long time to another lawn sprinkler company today, somebody she has known for years, and he says he sees a new Atlantis truck painted black and white parked outside of Scott's home on Ocean Harbor Drive. He told Glendora how to get to Scott's home on Ocean Harbor Drive. Glendora left a message for Seamus to call. You know who Seamus is? He's the lawyer for ABC Tool, and he was a good one too. He said from the beginning that when Scott Lord sold Atlantis lawn sprinklers to Jeffrey Barnes and Jan Stahl, which became Tri-State, he said from the beginning that this was just an alter ego for Scott. And it did certainly look that way, but now I genuinely believe that Scott Lord is nothing but an employee for Tri-State Atlantis Lawn Sprinklers, Inc., or whatever it's called now. Glendora went back into the old files to talk to the people she used to talk to weekly about Scott Lord to tell them to watch the program on TV. Richard O'Connell called Glendora, well, of all things. That was nice, thank you. Yes, he presented his application to Judge Hall. Yes, he said Glendora creditor supported it 100%. And he read her paper to Judge Hall. Well, that was good, because I really should have been there and done it myself. All except the second paragraph where Glendora congratulated O'Connell on collecting money from Scott Lord, because she said in her paper to the court that Richard O'Connell was the only person that Glendora had ever known personally to ever collect any money from Scott Lord. And Glendora said to Richard O'Connell, "You're a better man than I am, Gordon's gin." Well, O'Connell did not read that to the judge. That's good, because Irish, even though he is, Judge Hall doesn't seem to have much of a sense of humor. When Glendora told him that he could have the 48 cents, Judge Hall said, "Sit down." Glendora asked O'Connell if Scott had sent the last payment due October 3rd. O'Connell said he has not received it yet, but that Scott Lord has told him on the phone he fully intends to send it. Glendora said then, "Will you make the distribution and get this thing over with?" And O'Connell said no, there won't be any distribution until the lawsuit is settled. And Glendora asked by what rule, and O'Connell was sort of at a loss as to answer that. I really will have to see the rule, and frankly I don't believe there is such a rule. It was a good conversation, and there were a lot of things in it that made Glendora laugh, and O'Connell deserves credit for calling Glendora with the news. The story on Fredman is that Stutchen did not give Glendora time before his cross motion to Glendora's motion for a default judgment on Scott, Stahl, and Barnes. So Glendora told the court clerk that, and the court clerk said, "How much time do you need?" And Glendora said she could have it in by Monday, and the court clerk says you can have until Wednesday, and the court did this on its own motion. And Glendora got it in on Friday, and everything was adjourned from the September 30th to Wednesday, October 5th. But as I say, I got it in October 1st. Mr. Fina in the Executive Office of United States Attorneys never called Glendora, so Glendora called him. No, nothing has happened on the administrative claim. It has gone to the torts group for review. How pokey. And on Thursday, Glendora was an hour today bringing the Scott stuff up to date. I had to go to Manhattan to edit for about 5 hours. In Consumer Affairs, finally, I got to talk to him, but only by calling him every 5 minutes until somebody came to the phone. And it took 15 telephone calls to get the information. And Glendora will get a copy of the Stutchin letter. See, Stutchin refused to cooperate. He refused to give any information at all. We called him, and he refused to give any information at all. And so we will get a copy of Stutchin's letter to the OCA that Stutchin made an application to overturn the judgment. We don't know to what court, we don't know to what judge, we don't know what date, we don't know what's going on in the court. But the Office of Consumer Affairs has not heard since what happened, and OCA will call Stutchin to get the info. And if Stutchin does not cooperate, the OCA will write him, and the OCA will tell him that the license of Tri-State has been suspended. Therefore, Tri-State cannot do any business at all in Nassau County. Glendora will get copies of all this through the Freedom of Information Act. Yesterday, Glendora spent an hour videotaping Scott Lord what happened on September 27, 1993 week, chapter 1. Chapter 50. Yes, chapter 50. We're on chapter 51 now. Remember, folks, that old quarterbacks never die. They just pass away. There was no time for Scott today. On Friday, Glendora went to Manhattan to edit programs number 1320 and 1322, and these programs are not about Scott Lord. October the 9th, 1993, Saturday, a half an hour on Scott today. The logs in the file. There will not be a mailing go out on Scott Lord this weekend either. But there will be next week. Mailing has to have 16 pages, so it will be next weekend. This is only page 15. Now then, Sunday, today, it is pretty in Long Island. It really is pretty out there, folks. You really live in a pretty spot. And I go out there so much on this Scott Lord ripoff that really I ought to live out there. But I just can't give up living in wealthy Westchester. The time on Scott today is 1.5 hours, getting the videotaping up to date of Glendora versus Stahl and Barnes, etc. Time for the week is 4.5 hours. Glendora's decided this week to read the log for the update and to play that Edward King conversation, which shows obviously he was put up to it by Scott. This is such a typical Scott tactic, and it never works. He has tried things like this over and over again. And it never will work. And Scott Lord will never try the thing that will work. Never. He is hopeless. Have you heard about the donut defense in football? That's the defense with a hole in the middle. You take care of everybody and keep the courage flaming. Now, what happened on Glendora versus Gannett Broder et al. On the week of October the 4th, 1993? Well, nothing. Really nothing. Franklin went to see the United States District Court, Southern District, in the White Plains branch, and he got the Gannett affidavit of service on their screwball answer, so-called, which was a piece of stationery store work, as I told you and read to you. And he looked through the file to see if they had anything, if the court clerk had anything in her file that we didn't have. No, except that affidavit of service. We got a copy of that. And we got Glendora's Rule 9 statement and a copy of the August 9th newspaper, the Daily Times, and newspapers of July 16, 19, 20, and 21, and Glendora's August 10th submission, summons and complaint and affidavit of service, and Glendora's September 8th notice and motion for default judgment and affidavit of service. And Franklin talked to Mr. Givens, who was a law clerk, this was on October the 4th, 1993, Tuesday in the afternoon, and he was exceedingly unhelpful, Franklin writes. On when we can expect something from the judge, he said, "We can't predict the future." He asked what kind of antitrust suit the case is. He said time depends on, quote, what the two parties do to get together, unquote, and how many motions there are. You notice that Gannett has never done anything to get together. It depends upon how busy the judge is. And, Franklin asked, after giving him the date of submission of the case and the plaintiff's motion for default judgment, quote, when can the plaintiff expect to hear something from the judge? Sort of a reasonable question, don't you think? And Gibbons' reply was, from 10 days to 10 months. All the time we talked, we were standing in the doorway, and he was a long time answering the doorbell. Judge Broderick's telephone number is 682-6138. Oh, the coach said to the math professor, he says, give my star football player some help, in passing these exams. Let him pass. And the professor says, but look, he said 7 times 5 is 33. And the coach says, so he only missed it by 1. So, on the week of October the 4th, 1993, what happened with Glendora versus the DHCR before Judge Matthew Capolo, Justice of the Supreme Court, Westchester County? Nothing. Nothing happened. Judge Capolo has before him an order to sign. It should have been signed on August the 23rd. Today is October the 10th. Haven't heard a word. Now, that order has to be signed because Judge Capolo made a bad decision, and that decision has to be appealed. And I cannot appeal that decision until the order is signed, and I am given a written notice of entry of the order. So that's one thing with Judge Capolo. The second one is the decision about the William Street DHCR, the second DHCR, which is just as bad as the first DHCR in White Plains. But he has until the latest he can make a decision on that is November 15th. That's the rule. The judge has to make his decision in 60 days or less. Now there's a third thing. Third thing. Hold it. As the clerk, the court clerk, not the law clerk, the law clerk is the one who makes all the judge's decisions. Really all a judge does is just put in the digit. They say October blank, 1993, and he fills in the digit, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then he signs his name. Anyhow, does the court clerk have my self-addressed stamped envelope? Because if they don't, if they've lost it or misplaced it, whatever, but I brought it in and the judge was standing there talking to Matthew Riley at the time, excuse me. I brought it in and the judge was standing there talking to Michael Riley when I gave my envelope. So I hope they haven't lost it, because if they lost it, I never know what the decision is. You pay $250 to get these cases in the Supreme Court, and you just wouldn't think, of asking them to put a stamp on an envelope, a stamp that costs 29 cents, and mail it to you. Oh no, you just wouldn't think of that. You have to supply your own stamp. That's what Judge Ingracia says. Team for the medical school, the cheerleading team for the medical school. They have their cheer is hypodermic, hypodermic, hypodermic. And the reporter says, what does that mean, hypodermic, hypodermic? And the cheerleader says, stick it to them. And as far as Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano et al., I got my brief back. No, excuse me, this is the record on appeal. I got it back from the clerks in the appellate division in Brooklyn, 45 Monroe Place, where I'm going to go and do all my oral arguments sometime this decade. Nobody can be sure when. And I got an A+. See, I send it down to them so that if there's anything wrong with it, they can tell me now, and I'll have time to change it, because I have 90 days to perfect my appeal. And this is Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano on the punitive damages for Lydia Gallicano charging me for her Con Edison charges, and my asking for punitive damages. And this was before Judge Donovan, and he made a bad decision, and I'm telling the appellate division that. But anyhow, here's a cute little note that was attached to it, and guess what it says? It says, "Nice work, very professional looking." So I got an A+. Now, I'm doing the brief right now for the same case. And this morning, I answered 6 points. I made 6 points to my argument. This is going to be a brief. I don't think it's going to be more than like 20 pages. And then when I finish that brief about Judge Donovan, then I'm really through with Lydia Gallicano et al. For years, maybe not, well, maybe 2 years before the appellate division gets around to scheduling my oral argument before them down in their beautiful chambers, not chambers, down in their beautiful hearing room with all the gold gilding and the chandeliers and everything else. It's really very classy, before 4 judges, before 4 black robes. Now, I want to tell you about the football fan with his hand on the TV knob. He says to his wife, say, "Helen, you got anything you want to say to me before the football season begins? Take care and keep the courage flaming, and don't let anybody rip you off. Stand up for what's right. It's tough, but stand up for what's right." Hi there, everybody. This is mailing number 28, Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin, and what happened October the 4th, 1993 week, 21 Greenwich Avenue, mailed to 22 people, October 4th, 1993 Monday. It cost $11 to post and $8 to print the log that went out yesterday. Otto left enveloped outside of Glendora's door. It is litter. Roberta kept bringing it back to Glendora's door about 20 times. Number 329, the bulb was missing outside of our bin. This is another thievery. Prime suspect is Nella Alpucci. Last night when she left our front hall and went down the cellar, number 330, at 8:50 p.m. Sunday night, Glendora heard bust, blank, 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 you know. It was guess who? It was Candy Alpucci. Then there was a loud banging again on the mailboxes. Glendora opened the door fast. Only one person was in the hallway. It was Nella, number 331. She was caught red-handed. Intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. And what was she doing in this building anyhow? She lives in 3B, and what was she doing with our mailboxes? She went down the stairs saying to G, F, blank, 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 lunatic. This is when she probably took the bulb on her way through the cellar. This bulb was a $5 decorated bulb as for dressing rooms, and Glendora spent 10 hours on the wall audio tapes getting them down onto videotapes. James Walsh made a lot of noise in the hallway in the afternoon with his raucous guests from school, and Glendora got a call from WABC TV Eyewitness News. October the 5th, 1993, Tuesday, Glendora wrote the first part of the lawsuit against Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin, the summons with notice. A chat with Glendora was on, and it was interesting. Glendora will have to interrupt the series in Westchester and put up Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. The police came and reported on the thievery. Glendora informed John Porzio by telephone of the harassments. 3 p.m., the Walshes were doing their old harassment, stomping up the stairs. Number 331, harassment. 2:30 p.m., Channel 7 called. After only 3 questions, Diana Williams said, "I want to come and see you." Glendora was not sure she wanted her to, but she let her. The next 1.5 hours were taken on queuing up the videotapes to show Williams of the harassment and the insulting and abusive language, of the personal injury and of the intentional torts, of willful conduct to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. Then she got out the 4 volumes of What Happened logs. She was here at 4 p.m. on the dot. Diana Williams was. The Channel 7 van drew up, and there was an audio man and a cameraman, and Glendora showed Williams parts of the videotapes: 2Y, Chapter 8 wall, Chapter 7 wall, Chapter 6 wall, and the atrocious language of Nella disgusted everybody. Glendora showed Williams the summons with notice. They were here 4 to 5:30 p.m. with piles of footage, too much. They will be days editing it. When you go out and shoot, you shouldn't shoot too much footage because it takes too long to edit it. They wanted to see the 8-minute clip of Glendora on David Letterman's show, but it would take too long to find it in the archives. Glendora said if she had time, she would make them a dub on 3/4 someday. Glendora has it on 8mm. As soon as Williams and crew left, Budinsky Daniel Walsh went out to them. Glendora has a right to have a guest come to her home without Walsh horning in every time. Walsh does this with every policeman Glendora summons. It is gross. Glendora went out and told Channel 7 she objected to Walsh horning in. Channel 7 Williams made things worse. Then, of course, Motor Mouth Candy Alpucci had to come by and blab nonstop for 40 minutes. Then, of course, her nosy sister and Uncle Ozzie had to butt in. James Walsh told his mother to shut up. Glendora audio taped all this and videotaped it. It will be in Glendora versus Wall, Chapter 3. Glendora spent 10 hours on Wall today. Roberta said to Franklin, who had said nothing to her, "You are a sick man." Candy said, "You could have had a heart attack. You could have died. Then where Glendora would have been." Daniel Walsh pushed Glendora through the front door. How Neanderthal can these people get? Channel 7 left at 6:30 p.m. They made things worse instead of better. Daniel Walsh was afraid to go on camera when Williams asked to interview him. Theo Alpucci was crude and rude, saying Franklin should have had better taste in picking a wife. Franklin did not answer any of them, but their gross behavior is loud and clear on audio tape and on videotape. Number 331 to number 340, harassments. Those were. Walsh and Alpucci told Williams one lie after another. They have no proof, no substantiation for their malicious allegations. They have no paperwork. They have no audio tapes. They have no videotapes. It was pretty obvious Williams could see that. She pulled away from them. Glendora went back to transferring the audio tapes to videotape. She did her September 24th, 1993 week updates on camera for the TV show. Roberta, Walsh, Daniel, and James, when they see the light on and know that Glendora is videotaping the program, they stomp up and down the stairs as loudly as they can. They slam the mailboxes, and they talk loudly and uncouthly. Now, these are harassments number 341 to number 346. The blonde, curly-headed boy who harassed so severely May the 24th, which you have seen or will see on videotape about 10 times during the Pepsi commercial, in the 5-hour altercation that was started by sassy James Walsh, was here wearing down the lawn where the landlord has told the Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin gang not to. Glendora was too busy to bother with them. October the 6th, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora's garden was vandalized a 5th time. She called the police, and this is harassment number 347. The prime suspect again is Daniel Walsh. As Glendora thinks it over, he's a better suspect than Roberta for the crazy glue in the lock that caused the landlord to spend $92. After Glendora got into the house that day, she did see him on the property. James Walsh said yesterday when Channel 7 was here that it wasn't his father who vandalized the garden Saturday morning. The total time Tuesday on a recount is 17.5 hours on Walsh and the other hoodlums. They promise peace to the police. They immediately breach it with their outrageous lack of control. Today's joke is Marilyn is so fat she got stuck into her hula hoop, And when she goes into the bakery, Marilyn, she's so fat, she takes all of the numbers. And pretty soon she will be so big that she will be picked up on the weather satellite. Walsh revealed unwittingly how deeply the Walsh-Alpucci harassment has gone and how far they looked to find a violation by Glendora and cannot find any. They break the law, Glendora does not. Walsh states loudly, Glendora does not like confrontation. Right, thanks for the compliment. Civilized people do not like confrontation, but Neanderthals do. Civilized people resolve their disputes legally. Neanderthals try to retaliate illegally and then hide because they have broken the law, no class. First they break the law and then they lie about it. Another neighbor was telling Glendora how she hears the Nella sister horn blowing every morning at 7:20 a.m. Said neighbor looks out the window to see this law breaking. It is also puerile, their childish behavior. Other neighbors see the litter Roberta Walsh keeps putting in front of Glendora's door. It is so juvenile. When Williams was here, Ozzie said threateningly to Glendora, "Be careful with that camera, woman." Glendora was not intimidated. On camera, on close-up, you can see Ozzie flinch when Glendora said, "And what if I am not, man?" He has made several threats before. He left soon after that. Why is he afraid to be on camera? Why is Walsh afraid? Is there anything being covered up? Here is a police report. This report was by Officer Hockman on 10/2/93 at 9:20 a.m. Officer Hockman and Police Officer Pino and I went to 21 Greenwich Avenue on a report from, that a garden had been ripped up. There we spoke to M.S. Glendora, who told us that between the hours of 19:30 on October 1st, 93 and 09:20 a.m. October 2nd, 93, someone pulled out of the pots 5 impatiens plants valued at $10 and 2 tomato plants valued at $8. The plants were in a fenced-in vacant lot owned by a Japanese firm in Manhattan. No other damage was done at this time. Sergeant Fitzsimmons is giving speeches in the White Plains High School. Chapter 1 wall has the commentary and the clips together. It is discussing. Children are warned not to watch nor listen to the program. Chapter 2 wraparound is done and the clips selected. There are several steps. Plan the contents, put it in order, do the wraparound, edit it, do the graphics, and make the archives. Theo Alpucci was around, rumbling the driveway with his hockey roller skates and a hockey stick. This is how he brought the cellar window last Christmas into splinters. He put the hockey ball through the cellar window right under our living room. 7:20 a.m., Candy Alpucci's sister blasts the horn 12 times. 9:30 a.m., Glendora hears Roberta around the front door. Roberta goes down cellar to do another wash. Glendora decides to check around her bin just in case anything happens. That's what you have to do. You have to get out, and you have to see who is present and what time they're present, and then when they leave, you have to check around so that you can tell the police when these things happen, when these vandalisms and thieveries happen. Diana Williams said to Glendora, "You're logging your tapes?" Glendora said yes, and Williams said, "You do a better job than I do." Editing is so tedious, folks. It is the least love of my television work. But then you have to say it is pretty wonderful how those electrons are running around the tape and you end up making a program out of them. Editing requires a lot of skill and practice and concentration, and it costs a lot of money. October the 7th, 1993, Thursday. It was another 10-hour day in self-defense against the hoodlums. 3:15 p.m. Theo, Kevin, and James were defying the landlord's order not to do what they were doing in the parking lot outside of Glendora's windows. But there were no parents around to guide these lawbreakers, entirely without parental guidance. With these parents, this is maybe a good thing, because the parents are as childish as the children. If there had been parents, they would have agitated the kids further to break the law, the White Plains Noise Ordinance law and noise pollution. Theo was reckless, showing off on roller skates and a hockey stick. Then he became assaultive. He deliberately brushed Franklin, going as fast as he could on these roller skates, dangerously fast, and with a hockey stick. And he bellowed to Franklin, who was 74 years old, "Get out of the way. What's the matter with you?" This is a youth. What's the matter with you? What could be lower? Franklin was loading video equipment into the R in preparation for the editing at TCI. "3 hours editing Wall, Chapter 1. It leads off with Nella Alpucci's May 24th obscenities. It was hard editing, and it got done. The archives got done the first 10 minutes. It was 10 hours work on Wall, Thursday. October the 8th, 93, Friday, at 7:05 a.m., Franklin called the police and reported the reckless attack of Theo Alpucci yesterday. DiMario came at 7:15 a.m. Nella was standing in front waiting for her sister. We never spoke to her. She kept up her usual harangue. That woman talks to herself, really, because nobody else was talking to her. Like Daniel Walsh, she tried to horn in on the policeman, but Glendora protested very firmly to the policeman, and the policeman made Nella go off by herself. Glendora told DiMario, "Candy's sister comes every morning at 7:20 a.m. and blows the horn as harassment." Glendora told him she wanted him to stay and arrest her, but he did not. Nella acted silly after the police left, but Glendora rejected her jibes. Candy told somebody upstairs to get word to her sister not to blow the horn. Glendora worked 2 hours on Wall, what happened, and at 1:20 p.m. Franklin and Glendora went to Manhattan to edit Wall 2, Chapter 2. It is a good job, and it cost $80. It was $1.75 toll, plus all the gasoline, and the time on Wall today was 10 hours, and Franklin put in 8 hours. Now, as Nella was standing there waiting for her sister to pick her up, the children were leaving to walk to school. Nella made a big thing of her concern for the children, overacting that she's a great mother. The children acted stunned over the attention, filling their lungs with black smoke and not giving them any direction, or destructive, not helping them to be constructive. Glendora put a new bulb in the cellar. We will see how long it takes prime suspect Nella Alpucci to steal it. The garden was not vandalized today. Glendora and Franklin walked the estate like a night watchman to see every hour, to see what the vandals and thieves might have done so as to be able to tell the police more accurate times when the hoodlums do their evil. Roberta Walsh left 2 cigarette butts on the cellar. She says we have such nice neighbors here. Well, if she likes the neighbors so well, how come she abuses the common areas and is so inconsiderate of the neighbors with her cigarette butts and her soap all over the floor and her litter and the black lint again? It is a tough fight to stand up for what is right, folks. And it's a tough fight to stand up for right against people who believe only in standing up for what is wrong. All of their fight is to stand up for what is wrong. October the 9th, 1993, Sandy. October the 9th, 1993, Saturday. Candy is not convincing when she says on camera, "What light bulb?" Here is a letter that was returned by the Ottos who live in 3C rather, and she says, "Return to sender. We do not accept trash mail." And she left said trash mail outside of our door, and Glendora left it out there too, and Roberta Walsh. When Glendora pushed it away from the door, Roberta Walsh kept pushing it toward the door. Now, this is not the proper way to handle this. These people have remedies. The correct remedy is to write on it refused, and it goes back to the United States Post Office, and then it comes to us. That is the proper way to handle it. Here is a bill to Glendora TV ads from WNBC TV, and this bill is for 1 spot on This Is the NFL between 12 and 12:30 p.m. On Channel 4. Remit to the National Broadcasting Company, Customer Financial Services, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, New York, 10112, room 5040. 2, Glendora, Box 532, Scarsdale, New York, 10583. My account number is 151370. Net due 30 days of invoice. I always pay up front. All of my clients pay me up front, and I pay the TV stations up front. I don't like to owe anybody any money, and we don't owe anybody any money, and we never have, and I hope we never will. This is a standard contract. We have an invoice number here. We have the broadcast month of September 1993. We have the scheduled dates of September 5th to September 12th. That's how they schedule by the week. It's a standard broadcast calendar. Their calendar is different from the Gregorian calendar that the rest of us use. Okay, what is the cost of this spot? The cost of this spot is $300 net. Excuse me, $300 gross. The code number of the spot is JTOP, JTOP 1030. That stands for Jaffe's Tire, and it was placed through Oliver Pike. And there's 2 of them here, 2 spots for $300 each. That's $600. My commission, WNBC TV gives me a commission because I find the business for them. They give me a commission of $90, and it makes the net due $510. That's sort of an interesting paper. October the 9th, 1993, Saturday, continued. Officer DeMario, badge 35, gets the lowest score of any of the police who have come. He was surly. That's the first. Second, he did not perform his duty, stay and hear the horn blowing, and arrest Nella Alpucci's law-breaking sister. It's amazing how impotent the white police can be. You give them everything to do the arrest with, and they cop out. And 3, he gave such a weak excuse. He says, this is not my regular car. This is not my territory. What does that have to do with arresting anybody? It is what people call a cop-out. 6:33 a.m., I made the grid of what has to be done on wall each day and how long it takes. A good mother would not allow Theo Alpucci to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose, a senior citizen. But then it was Nella Alpucci who said to the senior citizen, you could have died, you could have had a heart attack, then what Glendora do? So Theo Alpucci has no example of lawful behavior, only what is unlawful. Theo has a tendency toward physical violence and out-of-control temper, as he has demonstrated to the world when he violently threw the ball at Glendora's head as she stood at her desk, at her window, doing her work and not paying attention to Theo. This was further demonstrated on videotape 3J, October the 2nd, 1993, Tuesday at 5:45 p.m., when Theo, following Daniel Walsh's example, pushed Glendora through the front door. These youths have no good examples to follow, only bad examples. Daniel Walsh and Theo Alpucci are getting closer and closer to physical violence, and it appears one day it will explode. This morning in the cellar there was an empty bullet shell. Then maybe the police will do their job. Maybe. Now I'm going to read you chapter 3 and 4 of noise pollution. I'm going to read you one sentence, and here is what they are doing, and this is what started the whole fight way back in April. These people were violating the White Plains Noise Ordinance, which states yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, or singing on the public streets, which states yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, or singing at any time or place so as to annoy or disturb the quiet, comfort, repose, health, or peace of persons in any dwelling or other residence. That is the law that they started to break. And when Glendora caught him breaking that law and put it on videotape, their action was to retaliate and to retaliate in the form of harassment and in the form of abusive language and in the form of mental disturbance and fright. 6:59 a.m., cue up the videotapes for editing Chapter 3, Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin, off of television. Finish the videotape 3H, September 24th, 93, Friday. 31, the audio tapes of the horn blowing. 2Y, Candy found language. Candy foul language outside a Glendora bedroom window after she blasted her horn several times. 3J, the WABC TV sidewalk encounter. No change in plan. 8:18 a.m., cue up the videotapes for Wall, Chapter 3, and write the wraparound. That is the commentary. No, there was another delay. 8:37 a.m., try again. 1:37 p.m., it is done. That's how long it took. It took all morning and the first part of the afternoon. It took a while to dress up and set up the equipment and cue up the videotapes for Chapter 3, laid down 3 programs full of Diana Williams and what Walsh Alpucci said out on the curb in front of Diana Williams. We made the commentary, opened up a new 2-hour 8mm. We're on tape 3K. Changed clothes, walked around the cellar and the garden to check on the thievery and the vandalism. Uncle Ozzie was here at Alpucci's, but he did not blow the horn. That old Cadillac that he has certainly runs smoothly and quietly. I don't know how old it is. It must go way, way back. Must be in the 80s somewhere. 7 hours on wall, law breaking today. October the 10th, 1993, Saturday. It was almost a day of peace. And not the Walsh and but it was shattered by the Walsh family as every time before they've shattered it. This time it was Daniel Walsh and James Walsh pounding their feet up and down the stairs in their gross exaggeration and elephantine harassment with intent to annoy and alarm and with no legitimate purpose. Glendora wrote the first page of the complaint to go with a summons with notice. Glendora did not want to start this lawsuit, but the defendants continue unabated their breaking of the law and their intentional torts and their personal injury, harassment, fright, mental disturbance, abusive language, insulting language, obscene language, intent to hurt, close assaults, stealing, lying, vandalism, littering, and air pollution with cigarettes and spreading the butts all over the property in the common areas. October 10, 1993, Sunday. This is the little Katy cat. Hello, little Katy cat. Now either she wants to eat or she wants to go outdoors. What started this? The breaking of the law by the Walshes, the Alpuccis, and the Larkins. The White Plains Noise Ordinance, April the 11th, 1993, Easter. Yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, or singing at any time or place so as to annoy or disturb the quiet, comfort, repose, health, or peace of persons in any dwelling or other residence. That is the law that was broken. Initially, when Glendora stood up for her rights and began videotaping her evidence, instead of reforming, said hoodlums started a long campaign of retaliation, more law-breaking, harassment, vandalism, thievery, abusive and insulting language, horn-blowing, fright, mental disturbance, and littering. 9:45 a.m., dress up for church. 10 minutes later, a huge slamming of the dryer downstairs. Glendora had to go down and get her folding chair. Guess who was brutalizing the dryer? Guess. Candy, Nella, Alpucci. Glendora got her chair, put it upstairs in the northeast room, and sped to church. Now, here was another violation. This would be the violation of abusive and insulting language. Glendora said nothing to Candy Alpucci, and as Glendora went through the cellar, upstairs with her chair, Candy Alpucci said, F blank 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 blank. face, unquote. Then there was another banging of the dryer. So if this dryer is totally destroyed, you know who destroyed it. It was a violent banging and pushing of the dryer to make it run. At 12:15 p.m., Glendora was back from church and Franklin went to Manhattan. And Glendora resumed the work on wall. She closed the log. She got the envelopes ready for this mailing. She wrote another page of the wall lawsuit. And I'm videotaping for Chapter 5, videotaping of what happened this week. 7 hours for today. We spent 79 hours this week, counting the two of us. And Katie, she didn't do any work on it. And we spent 79 hours this week on this wall, law breaking. Walsh, Alpping, and Larkin. And the cost of the editing was $80, and it was $8 postage and $10 printing, so it was $98 this week. And these are the 22 people that this log is mailed to. So, and what happened October the 4th, 1993 week, Glendora versus Walsh, Alpping, and Larkin at 21 Greenridge Avenue, White Plains, New York. Now, what happened the week of October the 4th, 1993, Wednesday, on Glendora versus Philip Amicone and Mayor Del Vecchio? Glendora versus Philip Amicone, the building commissioner of the city of White Plains, and the mayor of White Plains, Alfred Del Vecchio, and the White Plains Building Department. Well, nothing happened. And Glendora will start perfecting her appeal of Judge Garayan's decision just as soon as she finishes the appeal, perfecting of the appeal, the brief for Judge Donovan. And now about CBS, Glendora versus CBS and Rosado. Nothing there, and I have until December 22nd, 3 days before Christmas, to perfect that appeal. And I'll start that one as soon as I finish Garayan's. That'll be against Garado. And what happened with negligence of the White Plains library garage, where the car, the 2x4 was left next to the curb, two 2x4s, and punctured the tire. Okay, here's what happened there.
Good morning, 9495. Good morning, Glendora, please. Oh, thanks, and who's calling? George Mitchell, Continental Insurance Company. Oh, hello, George. This is Glendora. Yes, what can I do for you? I want you to pay the damages for my time, 6 hours, $1,200. Is this a case that's being handled by Margot Saraceno at my Tarrytown office? Well, she didn't state that. She stated that her name was Margaret Saraceno, but she did not say anything about Tarrytown. Okay, that's where she works out of, Tarrytown, New York. Okay, well, we had a great fight over that. I recorded it. Okay. I'm going to have to tell you that you're going to have to deal with her, Glendora. I can't deal with her, so don't tell me I have to. Okay. And if you can't deal with me, then I'll deal with Mr. What's-His-Name down in Manhattan. Okay. That will be your choice. What did Margot say to you? Oh, was it Margot? Well, Margot or Margaret, or everyone. I think she said Margaret. Yeah, well, that's her German accent, I think. Oh. All right. What did you say? What did she say to you about the claim? Did she make you... She admitted liability. She did? That was the first step. She admitted liability, and she will pay the $40 for the tire. But it's not that simple. It took me 6 hours to replace that tire. 6 hours that I would not have had to spend on a tire if Acasella had not been negligent. Okay, I don't know that much about the claim. I'll talk to Margaret, but if you're telling me that you had a tire blowout... I did not have a tire blowout. The negligence of Acasella, leaving two 2x4s at the curb, going home and leaving the place a mess the night before, punctured the tire as I entered the White Plains Library garage. And this is all on White Plains property. And Acasella indemnified White Plains for any kind of injury. And I'm staying with the White Plains Corporation Council on this. And I talked to him after I talked to Saracena and told him what she said. His name is Anthony Grant. He's the Corporation Counsel for the Law Department.
And you would like us to say what, in addition to your tire, what else?
The damage of time. 6 hours it took me to get a new tire.
Took you 6 hours. Gee, it seems like a lot of time to get a tire.
Well, these are special tires, and they are there was $300 for the set, and it has to be a set. You can't just get an oddball tire in there, and the only place I can find that tire is in the Bronx.
Well, it seems like a lot of time, but let me do this, Glendora. I'll speak to Margot and find out what's going on here, and we'll get back to you right away and let you know what our position is going to be.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutschel. Now, have you read my complaint?
If it's a notice of claim that you filed against the city of White Plains, yes, I have read it.
Okay, well, that tells you everything there. She obviously had not read it.
Let me
She missed page 4, I think it was paragraph 9. I'd have to get it out. It'd take me a minute to get it out. Okay. So, it's been a bad situation. The city of White Plains passed it off onto Gallagher Bassett. Gallagher Bassett passed it off onto Acasella. Acasella passed it off onto their agent Bruin up in Brewster, and then Bruin passes it on to Continental. It's a very bad record, and I've reported the first part of it on TV already, the actual scene and the tire and everything else. But it's just a report that the public has to know.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Gutschel, I've got to tell you today's joke. Today's joke. What do you call a miniature guppy?
I have no idea.
A microfiche.
That's very good.
Very good. Did you watch my program when I was on the air on Channel 6 from 1956 to 1962?
That upstate New York, Channel 6?
Yeah. General Electric.
Thought your name was familiar. Sure.
Oh, great. What town did you live as a boy?
Schenectady.
In Schenectady.
Home of Channel 6.
You're right, the home of Channel 6. So did I. I lived in Niskayuna.
Okay, I lived in the town of Rotterdam.
Oh, sure. Sure, absolutely. Route 146?
Just off 146. Actually, just off Route 7.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm glad you watched it.
I thought your name, but I know that name from someplace.
Yeah, and then I moved onward, and that was the last TV station I ever worked for. Then I got smart that you can't have anybody working for anybody. And I started my own business, Glendora TV Ads. And that took me to New York, where I'd been. And I just recently finished up 27 spots on the NBC television network and the CBS television network.
Great.
Yeah, trying for more. Well, that's great. Those were great days, you know. That was that was the high point of television, if you really want to know the truth. That's when television was the strongest. Broadcast television, I'm talking about.
Those days were.
Oh, it was great days, yeah. Great days. Great days. But it's all changed now.
It sure is. All right, nice talking to you.
Thank you, Mr. Gutschel.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Sure, it's Mr. Gutschel. I have to stop everything, and I have to enter that in the log.
October the 8th, 1993, Friday, sometime in the morning. Oh, it was 9 a.m., 9 a.m. straight up. Joke? Football is a game where 22 big, strong, healthy fellas run around like crazy for 2 hours while 50,000 people watch them, and these are the 50,000 people. Instead of sitting in the stands, they should be out exercising. Came from the woman in 2D. Now, she doesn't seem to live here. She just seems to come here on the weekends. She seems to show up on Friday, and she seems to be gone Sunday or Monday sometime. And on a Friday, September the 24th, 1993, I heard noise outside of my door, and I heard a banging on my door. And I went out, and this woman had left one of my letters on the hall floor. And on the outside of the letter, she had written something about, "We don't want this mail, old lady." Well, that, of course, is insulting and abusive language, and it is also harassment. It's an intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. And she has a remedy if the mail really isn't addressed to her, because I don't really think she's a resident of apartment 2D. She has a remedy. The mail is just, you write on the envelope "refuse," it goes back to the United States Post Office, and it goes back to our box. And that is the right way to handle it. So this was intent for mental disturbance. And let me show you the clip first. Now, after this afternoon, there was, I think it was three hours. It started at 2 and ended at 5:30. You've seen the rest of it on chapter 2, I believe it is. After this 3 hours of harassment, we had 3 different police come, I think, that day. 3 different summons we had of police. And that night, when she and the man who lives in 2D went out, for the first time, the man in 2D or this woman blew the car horn. And this was definitely harassment. And blew the car horn 5 times and played the radio very loud as they went under our as they went under our south bedroom window. And they did this on another occasion. And then they did it again on Sunday, October the 3rd. So you know what the law says. Yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, singing, or horn blowing at any time, in any place, to annoy or disturb a person's quiet, repose, peace, health. That's what the White Plains noise ordinance is, and they broke that. Hi there, everybody. How are you? Here's the update. What happened on Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, Jeffrey Burns, et al. And this is what happened the week of October the 11th, 1993. And this log was mailed out today to 38 people. And on October the 11th, 1993, Monday, the bank account for the bankrupt estate stays at $18,000. Glendora called the people at Newsday and asked them to watch Glendora versus Lord, Burns, and Stahl, etc. The story Glendora tried to get them to write. And Glendora told them they were scooped by TV again. Glendora has done 200 telephone calls today with many more to do. I think it ended up to be 240 in one day. October the 12th, 1993, Columbus Day. Did I ever tell you about Columbus? He was born in Italy. He set sail from Spain. He was in search of the East Indies. He ended up in the Bahamas. He thought he'd discovered America. If Columbus were alive today, he'd be working for the United States Post Office. Glendora got the work up to date for the first time in 2 weeks. How about that? Hooray. Today she will have to make up the sleep. No Scott videotaping to do. Yesterday she laid down on videotape the set up with Edward King and played that conversation. October the 13th, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora talked to a creditor for a long time. And the creditor says he appreciated what Glendora did. He still sees Jan Stahl. He had read all of the logs that G sent. His wife had seen Glendora on TV on Channel 25 at 10 o'clock Fridays. Yes, Neil Mann lives in Nassau County. Quote, please tell him that Glendora versus Lord, Stahl, and Barnes et al. Is on TV every Friday night at 10 p.m. Channel 25. Yes, I will. That was the Office of the United States Trustees, Department of Justice at Eastgate Boulevard in the Garden City. To the O'Connell office, did you receive Scott Lord final payment? The woman there says, I don't think we did. The total has remained stagnant for 2 weeks. The amount in the bank account is $18,000. The Office of Consumer Affairs got an answer from Stutchen. Yes, he filed papers to overturn the judgment. Well, where are they? The court lost them. Now, we know that courts are bad, but they're not that bad. They don't lose papers. Are you going to believe that? That the court lost the papers? He will send Office of Consumer Affairs a copy of his motion. How soon? Don't know. If he is faking, you will catch him. Stutchen is annoyed with people checking up on him. Well, the response to that is obvious. We are annoyed that Tri-State has judgments against them and that the Office of Consumer Affairs does not suspend their license. That's how they suspended Scott Lord's license, because he had judgments against him and he didn't pay him. Did he have judgments against him? Something like 100 of them. This is a consumer ripoff. 6 p.m. O'Connell answered the phone. He just got into the office in the pouring rain, and here he was talking to another trip. Is he going to put you through all that again? No, I haven't got Scott Lord's final payment. I hope he doesn't put you through all that again. I've been through so much on this case, he says, that won't bother me. Glendora said it's not fair. He said over the phone that the payment was in the mail. Scott Lord said over the phone that the payment was in the mail. October the 13th, 1993, Wednesday, Glendora tried to find out the index number and the name of the judge for the lawsuit Stutchen brought against the New York State Department of Labor, he claims. She wants proof that this is actually happening and that the court lost the motion papers. It is absurd to say that. The docket shows a new entry, Judge Hall signs O'Connell's order, October the 8th, Friday, entered Tuesday, October the 12th. Glendora asked why her docket she mailed $2 for wasn't here in Westchester. Glendora sang the docket clerk a hymn. I have to sing that for you. Breathe on me, breath of God, fill me with faith anew, that I may love as thou dost love, and do what thou wouldst do. People like those hymns of the week, just as they like the joke of the day. Glendora laid down the rest of Chapter 16, Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, and Jeffrey Barnes. Then she cleaned it all up, added graphics, pictures, and music. Then she made the archives copy of the VHS, and the master is on 3/4 inch, and the time was 1 1/4 hours. And then she started Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, Jeffrey Barnes et al., Chapter 17. John has an unusual obituary in the newspaper. The family requests no flowers be sent, all donations be sent to Visa, MasterCharge, and American Express. October the 15th, 1993, Friday, Nassau Supreme Court has no index number and no RJI. That's a request for judicial intervention. For Tri-State Irrigation versus the New York State Department of Labor. Glendora told this to the woman who answered the phone at Stutchen. Stutchen did not come to the phone. Glendora left a message on Barnes' recorder. You cannot leave a message on the Tri-State recorder at work. It only stays on 10 seconds. I know I do a lot of 30-second commercials, and I've done a lot of 10 seconds commercial, but that's too short for a telephone message. O'Connell's office says, I don't think so, that Scott Lord's final payment of $1,000 has come in. The bank account does not say it has come in either. Glendora versus Scott Lord, Jan Stahl, and Jeffrey Barnes, etc. was on TV tonight at 10 p.m., Channel 25, Nassau County, and there were a lot of telephone calls. It has resumed in Manhattan. Glendora versus Scott Lord, etc. has resumed in Manhattan, Chapter 5. And it will go for quite a long time in Manhattan. First it goes in Manhattan, then it goes out to Nassau County. Chapter 4 was on in Nassau this week, and a half hour on Scott, etc. today. And October the 17th, 1993, Sunday before church, that's today. 2.5 hours today on Scott Lord to close the log, make the master of this. Stamp the envelopes, copy, fold, stuff, seal, and post. $26 to print, $11 to post equals $37 on Scott Lord, who could not deal honestly. 6¼ hours this week on Lord, and Bob says, time stands still when I look into your eyes. And Joan says, are you trying to tell me I've got a face that'll stop a clock? And that's what happened with Scott Lord on the week of October the 11th, 1993. Bye-bye, everybody. Keep the courage flaming, and don't let anybody rip you off. What happened this week on Glendora versus Gannett Broder and Curley and Sherlock and all those people on antitrust? Nothing. Judge Broderick, United States District Court, Southern District, White Plains, is on vacation. First we heard until November 1st, and now we hear until the second week in November. And we did look around all over the place. Excuse me just a second. We did look around all over the place to see how long a federal judge has to make a decision. A city court judge has 30 days to make a decision. A Supreme Court justice has 60 days to make a decision. How long does a federal judge have to make a decision? Well, under Rule 16 here, and you have to hunt around, pretrial conferences, scheduling, and management, you find a thing here talking about having accepting categories of actions exempted by district court rule as inappropriate. The judge or a magistrate, when authorized by district court rule, shall, after consulting with the attorneys for the parties and any unrepresented parties by a scheduling conference, telephone, mail, or other suitable means, enter a scheduling order that limits the time to join other parties, to file and hear motions, to complete discovery, the date or dates for conferences, and any other matters appropriate. So it goes on to say that the order from the judge shall issue as soon as practicable, but in no event more than 120 days after filing of the complaint. So that may be it. 120 days after filing of the complaint. So the complaint was filed when? August 19th? So that would be 4 months from that would be December 18th, near Christmas. A schedule shall not be modified except by leave of the judge or a magistrate when authorized by district court rule upon a showing of good cause. That's the closest we came on there. That's what happened, Glendora versus Scott Lord. Watson, Gary Sherlock, Mr. Paulson, on the week of October the 11th, 1993. You gotta tell me. Bob says he has pedestrian eyes. Pedestrian eyes. Do you know what pedestrian eyes are? They look both ways before they cross. This is Glendora, a chat with Glendora. What happened the week of October the 11th, 1993 on Glendora versus the DHCR? Judge Coppola has not signed the order that he should have signed on August the 23rd. He still has not signed it. Number one. Number two, we handed in another envelope, self-addressed stamped envelope, just to be sure. So we get a copy of the decision, or a copy of the order, I guess. And then number three, the decision about Glendora versus Stephen Cohen and Gary Friedland and all that. And the William Street DHCR is, nothing's been done on that. He has until November the 15th to do that. And Glendora talked to the New York State Tenants Neighborhood Coalition, and they were very interested to know that her programs about the DHCR and the dumb things they do is on TV in Manhattan. In fact, it just finished up there. Chapter 5 just finished up there this week. The new thing about the DHCR against the William Street DHCR won't be on TV for a long time. And do you know why Bob plays his wedding videotape backwards? So he can see himself walk out of church a free man. Take care, everybody. This is what happened the week of October the 11th, 1993, on Glendora versus Lydia Gallicano et al. The brief, the appellant's brief, for Glendora versus Lydia Roselli Gallicano, on the punitive damages for Con Edison charge for charging Glendora the Con Edison that Lydia should have paid. That brief has been finished, and as I told you, that is a very brief brief. A very brief brief. And it has been, a copy has been made, and it has been bound, and it has been sent to the appellate division in Brooklyn, to the clerks, for them to check it over and see if there's anything wrong. And then that will come back. And if there's nothing wrong, then that just sits there until, who is this? What judge was this? This was Judge Donovan. And when did he make that decision? I think it sits there until, say, September, October, November, December. Sometime in December. And then this, the brief and the record, you saw the record last week, will be served upon Lydia Gallicano and her son-in-law, lawyer John Ornberger. And then started this week. So I won't have to do anything on Lydia, I don't think, until about the second week in November, when the appellant's brief will be served upon Lydia Gallicano and John Ornberger on the Holden case, where I appealed Holden's bad decision. And that goes to the appellate term. Now that's different than the appellate division. The appellate term takes cases that come from the city courts and the town courts. The appellate division takes cases from the Supreme Court. Okay, now, so we're all through with Lydia for quite a while, for at least a month. We don't have to do anything. So the next appeal we have to perfect is Glendora versus Philip Amicone, Mayor Del Vecchio, and the White Plains Building Department. And so that has been started this week. You do a little bit of this every day. My mother taught me that. You got a big job to do, you do a little bit every day, and before you know, that job is done. Now what this is the record on appeal. It consists of my notice with, my summons with notice and complaint upon those three defendants, and their answer. They bought the RJI, and then and they made a motion naturally to dismiss, and so naturally I made a cross motion to dismiss their motion and to grant me the money, whatever it was, how much it was. So that is started. And what case was that? That was for the negligence of Philip Amicone, the building commissioner under Mayor Del Vecchio and Mayor Del Vecchio himself and the White Plains Building Department. What happened on Glendora versus CBS and Matthew Margot and Beth Bresson and all those people? Nothing on the week of October the 11th, 1993. But this coming week, around about October the 20th, is the time that I will file my notice of appeal to appeal Judge Rosado's bad decision. And I have to pay $50 for that. So that's the story on that. I have to tell you a joke. I told this joke to my dentist. I told him that people say I have nice, even teeth. I do. I have nice, even teeth. 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 are missing. And he knows that, too. Now, let me tell you what happened on the tire, the White Plains City negligence. And it got up to the Continental Company. Well, the Continental Insurance Company called me and said, yes, they would reimburse me $40 for the tire. And yes, they would give me $100 for the inconvenience it caused. So they sent a form and a release, and I signed the release and had it notarized. So we will wait for the check to come. You have to stand up for these things. You know, people try to get away with it, but you can't let them get away with it. Now, I'd like to tell you what is going on with Glendora versus Walsh, Alpping, and Larkin. The lawsuit has started. I think you know that this was a summons with notice, and the complaint has started. This complaint is going to take a long, long time to write because they broke the law 400 times. So you have to tell the judge all the places where they broke the law. So it looks to me like it's going to take another 20 days to write this complaint, so that the complaint won't be written probably until the first week of November. And the series on TV is coming along very well, the videotapes. Chapter 1 is done, Chapter 2 is done, Chapter 3 is done, Chapter 4 is half done. So this week, the week of October the 18th, I hope to do the rest of Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6. And the lawsuit has to be served first. The lawsuit has to be filed first before the programs go on TV. Hi there, everybody. Number 29 mailing. Cut. 5, 4, 3, 2. Hi there, everybody. Number 29 mailing to 22 people. Glendora versus Walsh, Alpping, and Larkin. 21 Greenridge Avenue. What happened the week of October the 11th, 1993? October the 11th, 1993, Monday. Yesterday, when Glendora went to the cellar to get her red chair out of her locker, Nella Alpping called Glendora F***K FACE. Nella banged the dryer so hard it probably will never work again. She was brutal to it. This is in addition to causing all the noise at 8:38 a.m. Sunday morning. Nella also laughed in a way to annoy Glendora. 2:06 p.m. John Porzio was here and turned on the heat. He said it was going to be 20 degrees tonight. The man in weekend so hard it probably will never work again. She was brutal to it. This is in addition to causing all the noise at 8:38 a.m. Sunday morning. Nella also laughed in a way to annoy Glendora. 2:06 p.m. John Porzio was here and turned on the heat. He said it was going to be 20 degrees tonight. The man in weekend Clock again. Hi there, everybody. How you doing? This is mailing number 29 to 22 people, Glendora versus Walsly, Alpping, and Larkin, 21 Greenridge Avenue, and what happened the week of October the 11th, 1993. Yesterday, when Glendora went to the cellar to get her red chair out of her locker, Nella Alpping called Glendora F blank blank K F-A-C-E. Nella banged the drive so hard it probably will never work again. She was brutal to it. This is in addition to causing all the noise at 8:38 a.m. Sunday morning. Nella also laughed in a way to annoy Glendora. 2:06 p.m. John Porzio was here. To be 20 degrees tonight. That was on Sunday, the 10th. The man in from 2D blew the horn 5 times under Glendora's bedroom window. They saw Glendora through the open cellar door when they exited 2D on the way to the parked car. 7:30 p.m., Glendora's $5 decorator light bulb was sitting between the water pipe and the west wall of the cellar to the south of the dryer. Just mysteriously reappeared. It was not there in the morning. It appeared there later in the day, and the suspect is Nella Alpping. We put the globe back into the socket by our bin where it was before it was stolen. Glendora asked the police if she had to report that the globe was mysteriously returned. No, you do not. We discovered it at 7:30 p.m. 9:29 a.m. on Monday, Glendora heard Roberta clapping her hands about 10 times and saying, get out, go." Glendora immediately grabbed a tape recorder and ran out into the hall, sensing that Ginny Cat was in trouble. Ginny Cat was sitting on the top stair. She was not in the hallway. She was not near Roberta's door. Ginny has about 50% vision loss and 50% hearing loss, and in addition to that, she has muscular loss. So Ginny probably did not hear or see Roberta. Glendora rescued Ginny, put the cat in her arms, and headed for her apartment. Roberta says, "You shouldn't let that cat come up here, Glendora." Glendora kept silence. Glendora talked to Sergeant Fitzsimmons today. She also talked to Detective Batoya about the violence of Theo Alpping on October the 7th, 1993, Thursday at 3:50 p.m. when he came barreling down the driveway on his roller skates and deliberately and willfully and maliciously said to a 74-year-old man, "Get out of the way. What's the matter with you?" 3 more paragraphs were written on the lawsuit and typed, and then another page was written on the causes of action. A lawyer offered to help out. Chapter 3 wraparound is all videotaped, and all the tapes are queued up and logged. And the same is done for Chapter 4. Glendora does not want the programs to be telecast until a lawsuit is filed. The number of harassment violations to date, folks, is 354. These people have broken the laws 354 times. Franklin and Glendora brought in the house all the plants to avoid the frost or the near frost. They look very pretty. Here's some of them. It will take days to put them in place and clean them up. This is another reason Glendora and Franklin will not have a garden next year. It is just plain too much work, and it takes too much time. The football coach said to the math teacher, "You got to give my star player a break." And the math teacher says, "But look, he put on this test that 7 times 5 is 33. And the coach says, "So he missed it by 1. The time on wall today is 8 hours, and on October the 12th, 1993, Tuesday, Franklin went out to the Lincoln at 7:20 a.m. to go on an errand. Both Nella and Roberta were out there on the sidewalk. Neither one of them said anything, and there was no horn blowing this morning. And John Porzio replenished the 4 quarters that we lost in the dryer Sunday. He is a good landlord. Glendora told him he could save money on the heat since the temperatures rose after John Porzio had turned up the boiler, and she knows that John Porzio may have money to burn, but she doesn't like to see him burn it. Glendora doesn't like to see him get ripped off. Sergeant Fitzsimmons has been reassigned. She said she wasn't getting anything done on the case, and that was why she was reassigned. But she didn't know who the new detective is. John Porzio may cut. 11:30 a.m., Glendora walked around the estate. All is well. The laundry room floor has been disgustingly treated. There is no need for that. There was no autumnal rain. All day long it rained. Carry the total forward, 354 law breakings by Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. Glendora wrote 3 more points on the lawsuit last night and started listing the causes of action. Franklin typed them. Glendora left a message for Diane Williams of WABC-TV about the Jekyll and Hyde personalities of Walsh and Alpucci of September the 24th, 1993, Friday at 6:30 p.m. This is on both audio tape and videotape and will be on TV, Chapter 3, to be edited Thursday, and the time on wall so far today is 2 hours. That is a lot better. Now, 5 of the garden plants have been made house plants, as you can see. There's about 20 of them. And they look very happy in the southwest window. And Franklin got the 3 police reports. On October the 13th, 93, Wednesday, Franklin typed for an hour the causes of action on the lawsuit, Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. We are up to page 5, and here are the police reports. Who is this one? Oh, Houston, Brian Houston. He's the one that I was very impressed with. And maybe that's why Nella Alpucci's sister didn't blow the horn this morning. Responded to the above about a harassment complaint. Mrs. Buell stated she was being harassed by neighbors Daniel Roberta and James Walsh, who reside in apartment A3. I spoke with all parties involved and all agreed to make an attempt at getting along better. Officer Houston was one of the best policemen to come here. He tried to accomplish the most. Walsh Alpucci gave them their word they would cease and desist, but it was not given in good faith. Yet Houston had some kind of a latent effect upon these lawbreakers. There is another police report, 2 more. This one is written by Officer Finnegan. This officer responded to the above location on a report of criminal mischief. Upon arriving, I spoke with the complainant, who stated that between 1600 on October 6, 93 and 8:30 hours today, an unknown person stepped on the flowers in her garden, which is located outside of and next to her apartment building. The complainant estimates the value of the mischief to be about $2 for the damaged pot. The complainant has an ongoing dispute with a neighbor, Daniel Walsh, apartment 3A, and believes he may be responsible for same. This is a good report. Most of the officers do very well writing their reports. Their grammar is good and their writing is legible. Now, here's the best writing of all. I've never seen such good printing. Have you? Look at this one. This is Officer DeMario. He's the one I gave the lowest grade on for attitude. He was surly. I went to 21 Greenwich Avenue on a report of a person being harassed. Upon my arrival, I met with Franklin Buell, who stated that while he was unloading packages from his car, he was verbally abused by Theo Alpucci. Buell also stated that this is an ongoing problem. Buell was referred to the DA if he wished to further the matter. Okay. Now, where are we? This is a good report. He prints beautifully. He asked Franklin why that was harassment. It is a harassment because pursuant to point 5, subdivision 5 of the harassment law, intent to annoy and alarm with no legitimate purpose. Theo Alpucci thoroughly intended to annoy and alarm Franklin, and he had no legitimate purpose. DeMaria should have done his job, witnessed Candy Alpucci's sister blasting her horn and arresting her. First, the police will not arrest because they don't see it happen, and then when you give him a chance to see it happen, he drives off with an excuse. Mary Ann was here. Those people made a terrible mess of the laundry room. It is too bad they cannot mature. And she did a wonderful job. Oh my, she made it look nice. They just ruined everything. The set tubs, the floor. It was disgusting. It was Neanderthal. The big rain is over, and it is a beautiful sunny autumnal day. Now again, what has happened here? What started this? The breaking of the law by the Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin families. The White Plains Noise Ordinance, April the 11th, 1993 Easter. And here's what it says. Yelling, shouting, hooting, whistling, and singing at any time or any place so as to annoy and disturb a person's quiet, comfort, repose, health, and peace in any dwelling or other residence. And that's what they did. They thought they were going to get away with it, but the videotape shows otherwise. That is the law that was broken initially. When Glendora stood up for her rights and began videotaping her evidence instead of reforming, said hoodlums started a long campaign of retaliation, more law-breaking, harassment, vandalism, thievery even, abusive and insulting language, horn-blowing, fright, mental disturbance, and littering. Glendora tried to find out who her new detective is, but she just got the 360 degrees. So you have to keep calling until they realize what they have to do. Glendora spent an hour composing pages 6 and 7 of the complaint. The causes of action are all listed, 8 of them. Next came the law breaking of May. The first week is done. All the offenses have to be numbered and described and logged as to which videotape the evidence is on. It is a monumental job. It is terrible, the work that evil people make society. A chat with Glendora was on last night and received several telephone calls. The check was asked by the eye doctor. The check was asked by the eye doctor, an American eye doctor, giving him an eye chart test. And the doctor said to the check, "Can you read that bottom line?" And the check says, "Read it, I know him." Yesterday we declared as a day of peace. Tuesday was a day of peace. No law breaking by the 3 families. October the 13th, 93, Wednesday, was a day of peace also, the second in a row. Franklin typed 2 hours on the wall lawsuit, pages 6 and 7. Pages 6 and 7 of the complaint. First week of May, all the laws the defendants broke with videotape references. The White Plains police still do not know who Glendora's new detective is. Glendora asked 2 different times. 12:02 p.m., Glendora informed John Porzio there have been 2 days of peace. This is a hard lawsuit to write and to type all those paragraphs and all those torts. You have to number all the torts. There would have been 3 days of peace if Roberta had not tried to frighten Ginny Cat on Monday, who can hardly see and hear. October the 14th, 93, Thursday continued. Glendora spent an hour this morning reviewing how to edit videotapes 3I, 3K, and 3J. She hopes to get chapters 3 and 4 of Wall done today. Glendora has made a decision to interrupt her current documentary going on in Westchester on TCI and start the chapter 1 on October 26th. That decision had to be changed because the lawsuit has to be finished first and filed and served, and the lawsuit will not be done for at least 20 days. 1:41 p.m., I tried to write the rest of May 1993 and the tort number, page 8. It took 1.5 hours to write out for the court the torts of May the 8th, 93 week. The worst was Theo Alpucci, solid harassment with a boy from the Far East Indies for 7 solid hours, all on videotape 2Z4, and all to be seen on TV either October 26th or the first Tuesday in November. That has to be revised, I say again. Time on wall today is 7 hours. Robert had an interesting obituary in the newspaper. The family requests that no flowers be sent, rather that all donations be made to Visa, MasterCharge, and American Express. The time is 3:15 p.m. and it's time to get dressed up to go edit the wall chapters 3 and 4, hopefully. Thursday was a day of peace, that is 3 of them in a row. Franklin typed up to page 9 on the lawsuit. It took 2 hours. Glendora got Walsh, Alpping, Larkin, chapter 3 videotape, laid down, cleaned up, graphics and music, opening and closing, and VHS archives done. This one dealt with WABC TV coming up here to do a story and on the law breaking. And that was program 1323, 1,323 programs I've done on cable TV. 1,325, chapter 4 did not get done. The first 15 minutes were laid down, but that is all. See, first you have to lay it down, then you have to go back and you have to clean it all up. Take out all the glitches and stuff. And then you have to put the graphics on, then you have to put the music on, then you have to make an opening, and you have to make a closing. The old wall videotapes, chapter 1 through chapter 8, are strictly evidence tapes for the courts. Then new chapters have to be a program, because you have to do all the things I just told you had to do. And the editing took 3 hours and 7 hours today total on wall. At 10:15, October the 15th, 1993, Friday, at 7:20 a.m., Nella Alpucci's sister blew her horn once. That's too bad. That was the first time this week. Glendora left a message on Williams' recorder that what Wall did after Williams left and where the television shows stand. 3 chapters done. Glendora also asked Williams to convince Glendora that the making of the 3/4-inch videotape of this footage of the file language of Nella Alpucci and the Daniel Walsh and Roberta Walsh and all those other things that they didn't videotape when they were here, make a case that it would really be important, significant, necessary, and vital to have that on 3/4-inch, because it's going to be a big editing job and the time is just not there to do it. Nobody knows who the new detective is. They are running in circles. Glendora complained to Chief Bradley. 1.5 hours on wall today so far. Sometime this afternoon, Chapter 4 will have to be replanned, Chapter 5 planned, and Chapter 6, and the videotapes of these chapters logged and queued up for fast editing next Thursday. And I did that, and it took 5 hours. So you can't be there and not know which tape to go to and what count to go to on that tape. Bob, when I look into your eyes, time stands still. Joan, are you telling me that I have a face that would stop a clock? It took 5 hours, as I say, to index the wall videotapes. I indexed 2Y, 3H, 3I, 3J, and I made a wraparound. You know, that's a wraparound, a commentary in between the clips. And I queued up the tapes to finish Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6. The hope is that these chapters will be ready to telecast by next Friday, October 26th. No, that plan has to be changed. Glendora talked to TCI about available telecasting time. There is nothing available in prime time or weekends, just in the afternoons, Monday through Friday. And here I reproduce for you the receipts of the things that we had to go out and buy because they were stolen by Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. We had to buy new hangers, and of course the new hangers that you get aren't as good as the old ones. They're made of plastic instead of metal. And clothes, we had to buy a new pair of pants for the pair of pants that was stolen. Clothes again, we had to buy a second new pair of pants because that pair of pants was stolen. And then we had to buy the bulbs, the decorated bulbs. There's all of the receipts and what it costs. Let's see, that'd be 22, 44, 49. Woo! $55. 7:50 p.m., 8 p.m. and 8:05 p.m. one of the hoodlums went by Glendora's south and east window and made a scraping noise against the wall. Then the second time a hooting noise. Remember, that's in that law I read you. You know, shouting, yelling, hooting, whistling and singing at any time or place so as to annoy or disturb a person's quiet, repose, peace. Okay, there it was again, and then he did it a second time. That is the 5th harassment this week. total number of harassments or law breakings is 359. Franklin proofread 4 pages of the Wall lawsuit, 3rd week of May, 1 hour, and the time on Wall today is 7.5 hours. And October the 16th, 1993, Saturday, on page 7 are the dollars that had to be spent to replace the possessions we were robbed of by these hoodlums, common thieves. At 7:30 a.m., there was a lot of noise in the hallway outside our front door. It was Daniel Walsh and James Walsh. James Walsh was wearing white football pants, shoulder pads, a black football shirt with a white 8 on it, and carrying a football helmet. The two got into the Rinaldi plumbing truck that Daniel Walsh works for and drove off. There was no need of making all that noise in the hallway. Number 360. Frank corrected typos, Wall, lawsuit, pages 11, 12, 13, and 14. 1 hour. 8:26 a.m., Glendora will do the 4th week of May for the lawsuit. Proofread the what happened log for the 4th week of May, corrected the typos, made a copy of it, pasted it up, closed the 3rd week of May with a synopsis and count of tortious acts up to 149. Closed the 4th week of May. This took 2 hours. Tomorrow we'll do the 1st week of June. At this rate, it will take 20 days to write this lawsuit. The time on Wall so far today is 3 hours. The new pan hangers, of course, are not as well made as the old hangers, but they cost more. 10:50 a.m., Nella Alpucci blasted her car horn out front. The Walsh family, like elephants up and down the stairs, they went. When Glendora and Franklin go up and down the stairs, you cannot hear it. It took 3 hours to rehearse the editing of chapters 4, 5, and 6 this Thursday. Imagine that, just to rehearse the editing. Not to do the editing, just to rehearse it. 10:53 a.m., there was a knock on the door. Who is it, please? A newspaper boy, wanting us to subscribe to the Reporter Dispatch. Well, I sort of would like to, but I know I don't have the time to read it. 4:10 p.m., 3:46 p.m., who is my new detective? Don't know. Call Monday. 4:10 p.m., James Walsh and an outsider playing football on the front lawn, precisely where the landlord has told them not to. It cost the landlord $400 to replace the lawn. Every time they ruin it. Glendora videotaped them. James Walsh comes crying to his mother. She is videotaping us. So what? His mother cannot stop them. Roberta took her post at her usual second-floor window and said in defiance of the landlord, "You can play there." That is on videotape 2Y. That was another quarter hour on Wall. Total time was 5.25 hours. 6:10 p.m., Roberta Walsh slammed the mailbox as hard as she could. That is so juvenile and so destructive. Then she went upstairs to her apartment and slammed the door. 6:12 p.m., Alpucci loud talk in the hall and in the driveway because they saw the light in the living room. We cannot work in peace. We cannot relax in peace. The Walsh, Alpucci, Larkin gang leave their litter in the field, soda cans, candy wrappers, and so on. When will they ever mature? October the 17th, 1993, Sunday. After church, the dryer was not working again today. Rather than to bang it to pieces the way Nella Alpucci does, we took our clothes to another dryer off the property. We lost $1 again. Anyhow, the laundry is all done, and it is nice to have the clothes sweet and clean. 12:35 p.m., the Walsh family is making a whole lot of noise in the cellar. Insert that the football yesterday came within 3 feet of hitting the Lincoln. It was a long, high pass and had damaging momentum. This is not a ballpark, this is a residence. Why do these people continually break the law? Glendora had to take her Sony Walkman TV to church today to monitor Channel 4 for her commercial due between 11 and to 11:30 a.m. The time on Wall so far this week is 24.25 hours. And 12:44 p.m., get the What Happened log master copied and ready to print. It goes to 22 people. Pete, and it cost, it cost about $30. Pete, I have pedestrian eyes. John, what do you mean you have pedestrian eyes? Pete's, they look both ways before they cross. The update for TV in 1 hour to practice editing chapters 4, 5, 6 for Thursday. The total time on Wall this week now is 28.5 hours. And October the 11th week, 1993. To play you some audio tapes of things that happened on Glendora versus Wall, Alpucci, and Larkin. And while you're doing that, you can look at this picture if you'd like. This is one of my first TV shows. It was the SS Glendora, and I told the kids that the SS stood for steamship, and they said, no, it stands for stupid show. This was on the air for WRGB Channel 6 in Schenectady. This was the flagship station of General Electric Broadcasting. And this was way back in 1956 to 1962. When I was on the air 5 days a week, 45 minutes a day, Monday through Friday. It's amazing what the public will stand. And this was before General Electric, 20 years before General Electric up and bought RCA, which owns NBC. So it was a very interesting period. WRGB was named after Walter R.G. Baker, who was the developer of television for General Electric. And he had programs on the air, broadcast television, as early as 1928, when broadcast television really didn't start until 1948, commercial broadcast television. So it was a very, very interesting TV station. This first that'd be Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin, audio tape you're going to hear was Franklin calling the White Plains Police.
1993, Friday. Would you send an officer, please, to 21 Green Ridge Avenue? What's the problem, Department 2A? Well, I want to make a report of harassment. Theo Alpucci yesterday afternoon, I was loading our car in the driveway in our parking place, and he came barreling in on roller skates with a hockey stick and told me, "Get out of the way, what's the matter with you?" Yeah, why are you reporting this now, not yesterday when it happened? Sir? Well, we were leaving at that time. We were loading the car to leave. Where are you now? At home. Apartment 2A. What's your phone number? 949 and 9495. Yeah, he almost hit me. He almost ran into me. I just don't understand why you didn't call. If it's important now, don't you think it would have been more important to do this yesterday? Well, a report is a report. Right, but I'm saying, yeah. We'll come over and take a report. That's not the problem. Oh, good, yes, fine. The hockey stick, and you felt threatened then. Don't you think it would have been wiser to call yesterday instead of now, a day later? No, don't be a dead horse. All right, what's your last name, sir? Buell, B-U-E-L-L. B-U-L-L? B-U-E-L-L. And your first name? Franklin, F-R-A-N-K-L-Y-N. Okay, and your phone number was 949-9495? That's right. All right, we'll have an officer there, sir. Thank you very much. Time is 7:02 a.m. White Plains Police, October 8, 1993.
Officer DeMario came, and he was sort of curt and surly. And Candy Alpucci was standing outside there waiting for her sister. And Franklin gave the officer the report, and the officer asked Franklin why it was harassment. Well, it was harassment because it was an intent to alarm, intent to annoy with no legitimate purpose. And then Candy Alpucci came over, and she wanted to talk to the policeman, and I objected. Every time I call the police, and when WABC TV Channel 7 was here, Eyewitness News, these people butt in. And I feel that I have the right to have somebody come to see me and not have these people intrude. So DeMario told her to step aside and wait, and he would talk to her later. She did. And then I asked Officer DeMario to stay here because Candy Alpucci's sister comes down, barreling down Greenridge Avenue every morning and blasts her horn at 7:20 a.m. And Officer DeMario, I asked him to stay and arrest her for that. And he made all kinds of excuses that this wasn't the right car, he didn't have the right patrol car, and this car didn't belong in this community. It was queer, dumb things he was saying. But he went over and he talked to Candy Alpucci, and then he got into into the patrol car and drove off. He absolutely refused to stay there. They will not arrest anybody unless they see it happen with their own eyes, and so I was asking him to stay there and do that, but he refused to do that, and he drove off. And Candy Alpucci kept up a tirade. You'll hear some of that later. And she also used very bad language such as F blank blank K, F-A-C-E, calling Glendora that. And I didn't answer, of course. It would be very unwise to answer. It was sort of a monologue. And then when her children came by to go to school, she made quite an ostentatious show there about what a good mother she was and caring for them and concerned about them. The children were staggered with the attention. To make an audio tape of Candy's sister blowing the horn.
Candy Alpucci's sister come to blow the horn. Suspense.
And there it is. That's every morning, only usually it's about 12 times or 14 times. This morning it was only twice. Somehow or other Candy Alpucci got word to tell her sister that the police were there. This all happened on October the 8th, 1993, Friday. This is the end of that videotape. In this next audio tape you hear, you will hear Detective Bedoya, and he was the detective who came after Theo Alpucci threw the ball with all of his might at the window at my head as I was standing inside. I was not videotaping, I was standing at my desk doing my work, wondering what I would do next. And Theo Alpucci picked up this ball, and with all the strength that he could garner, he threw it right at the window and broke 3 window panes, cracked 3 window panes. And that, finally, the White Plains police did do something. They came and they interviewed Theo Alpucci. And they did seem to have and it was Detective Bedoya who did that. And he did seem to have some effect upon Theo Alpucci in quieting down this tendency that Theo Alpucci has toward violence. And so Glendora was talking to Detective Bedoya on October the 11th, 1993, Monday. Here it is.
On October 7th, 1993, a huge contract occurred the last week of September 1993. Today is October 11th, 1993, Monday. My husband was putting our video equipment into the car, and Theo Alpucci was on these roller skates, those blade roller skates, and he went by us lickety-split, and he thought that we were going to videotape him because he wanted the exposure. And then we didn't. We were videotaping in another direction. Then he came back, and he brushed very closely to my husband, who's 74 years old, and says, "Get out of the way, what's the matter with you?"
Did you call the regular police then?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They have a report on that?
Yep.
Okay.
That would be DeMario made the report.
Okay.
Badge 35.
Right.
So that boy has an inherent something for violence. Someday it's just going to explode as it did when he threw the ball at the window. I found a bullet shell down in the cellar.
You found what, I'm sorry, ma'am?
An empty bullet shell
Where?
down in the cellar.
And what do you do with it?
Excuse me?
What did you do with it? Did you...
I brought it up. I have it as evidence.
That's the first one you find there?
Yeah. Never expected to fire a bullet shell. Maybe it's perfectly harmless, but I don't know. It could or it could not be. How you been?
Good, thanks.
That's good. Busy?
As usual.
Yeah. So the football coach said to the math professor, you better give my star player a break here on these tests. And the math professor says, but look, he said that 7 times 5 is 33. And the football coach says, so he only missed it by 1.
That's good.
Okay, but I don't think that boy should... What are we going to do about that? He was pretty good there, you know, for quite a while. But his parents don't set an example for him. Daniel Walsh, when WABC TV came here to interview me, and it was over with, and then we were going back into trying to get into our home. They were blocking the door, and we were trying to get through the door, and then Daniel Walsh saw a great opportunity to vent anger, and he says, come on, get in there. I want to get in. Get out of the way. And then Theo Alpucci right behind him said, yeah, I want to get in too, get out of the way. And he doesn't even live in this building. Okay. Are you going to do anything about it?
Well, I can
Nancy, how are you?
talk to them.
Yeah. This is Franklin. Okay. All right.
Well, going along in good
The
shape.
programs are going to start on TV very soon. The first one is done. The second one is done.
What problem?
Glendora versus Walsh, Alpucci, and Larkin. It's going to...
What's cable? I mean, no
Well, it's going to be on a lot of them, but the first one will be TCI 21 pounds. It'll be 9 p.m. every Tuesday night. And it's going to be a long series. A long series. But I don't want the programs to start until the lawsuit starts. And the lawsuit's being written. So many violations, it's very hard to write it. But the summons with notice is done, and a page and a half of complaint is done.
So when is the lawsuit going to start, you know?
When is the lawsuit going to start? Well, just as soon as it gets written. I don't know, I just have to keep working on it.
Right.
But it seems to be a force right now to get through because these violations go back to April the 12th. And it's hard to group them. And there's different people, different violations. And there's over 400 harassments. So that's going to be a hard thing to write.
Yeah.
And you have to give the causes of action. The causes of action, of course, are intent to annoy, and alarm, and abusive, and insulting language, and intent to cause mental disturbance.
Stay all night, so...
Nobody's ever got him for the most obvious law of all. Now, this would be criminal, not civil. Nobody ever got him for the most obvious law of all, and that's shouting, yelling, hooting, whistling, anywhere in a place that's close to a person's dwelling, and disturbing the peace and the health and the well-being of that person. And that's the White Plains Noise Code Ordinance, noise pollution.
Right.
Section 3.4.
during the day.
So nobody's ever got him on that. And there's loads of evidence. Nobody's ever seen the videotapes, right?